Hello, everyone. So, welcome to the sixth episode of the Books and Beyond series on NPStation. It has definitely been a long time since I've gone live on the series, but I'm glad to be back in action. Today, we have a special guest who is the New York Times best-selling author of 27 books, including her latest instant bestseller called The Summer of Lost and Found. She is also the author of the children's book series called The Islanders. So everybody, please welcome Mrs. Mary Alice Monroe to the episode today.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Nia. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm so glad to have you on today.
Thank you. It's always a joy to talk about this series.
Oh, yeah. So let's get right into the questions. So first, could you please introduce yourself to the viewers and maybe tell us more about the books you have written?
Hi, well, as you said, Mary Alice Monroe, and I've been writing for a long time, over 30 years, and I started, oh gosh, writing classic novels with archetypal themes. Then I quickly went into the environment. That's my heart. And I set books set against endangered species, especially marine life. People know that I live on the coast. So I've written about turtles and dolphins and fish and a myriad animals. And recently I started middle grade. And I always knew that what I wrote for adults, I also wanted to tell kids to be aware of the environment, especially post pandemic, to get outside, stop staring at your phones and your laptops and get, first of all, eye strain alone.
Right.
Get outdoors and enjoy it. It relaxes you, it makes you excited, and learn to identify what's out in the wild. And so I wrote The Islanders with my co-author Angela May, and who feels exactly like I do. And we put our hearts into it. It was two little boys and a girl, Lovey, who are about 10, 11 years of age, on a real place. And I'll answer all those questions for you. But it was a surprise to us and a great joy that it did so well. It shot on the New York Times. And I like to think not only is it a great book, of course, we like to think that, but I think it was the right book at the right time.
Right.
That we needed to have stories that encourage kids to get outdoors.
Definitely. Yeah. So like I know you love to spend time like outdoors. So do you like actually work with different animals to learn
I do.
about them? You do.
Yeah, that's the hallmark, I think, of all my books. It's all started when I joined. I always was a conservationist, but when I joined the island turtle team 25 years ago,
Oh, wow.
but that's for the loggerhead sea turtles along the southeastern coast.
Yeah.
I live in South Carolina, and I knew they were in trouble with light ordinances, and people weren't talking about turtles as much as they are today.
Right.
And I thought, I could make my books be a force for good, and I could tell a story. I'm a novelist. I'm not writing nonfiction, and that's the key. So how could I tell a story that really got people engaged? But when they finished it, they thought, wow, I learned a lot about turtles and they're very cool and I want to care for them.
Yeah.
So that was The Beach House, and that hit the Times, and it greenlit my ability to continue right. Well, that series has been going on for 20 years. And then I've done a couple other series, but then the question came up for kids too. How can I tell these stories for kids? And I was asked to write a series for this imprint for middle grade, and it was a quick, you bet, yes, I can't wait. That was The Islanders.
That's amazing. So, do you actually do you travel to other places or do you focus on the animals in like South Carolina?
Pretty much South Carolina. Because I like to work with the animals myself. I've gone to Florida to work with the dolphins there.
Oh, nice.
So for 6 years, I worked with Atlantic bottlenose dolphins.
Wow.
And of all the species I've worked with, they are by far the most intelligent, endearing. They recognized me when I came back faster than I recognized them, because dolphins have the dorsal fin, and it's like a fingerprint. If they're damaged or bitten or scarred, we can mark and know who they are over time. Then they have personalities, you get to know them. But when you first come up, they all look the same. So until you have and then they're They recognize me before I
Yeah,
recognize
I
them. Oh,
know.
hello, Tercy. Hello, Ken.
Yeah,
But
I
go
dolphins
ahead.
dolphins are amazing. We had gone to Mexico and I had the amazing opportunity to swim with the dolphins,
Oh, that's so
and
great.
they're just amazing. Like they're so smart as well.
Yeah,
Very intelligent
they
creatures.
really are. And
Yeah.
I'd like to do something more with kids for dolphins too.
Uh-huh.
But for this book, we live near an actual island called Delise.
Right.
And I live on Isle of Palms, which is connected to a big island,
Uh-huh.
and everything is on the barrier islands, which there are many barrier islands along the southeastern coast, but
Hmm.
very few are actually inhabited,
Okay.
big enough to inhabit. So Deweese is a small island accessible only by boat.
Oh.
So when we go there, Angela and I've been there for many years,
Hmm.
but only as a visitor. It's private, but it's a nature sanctuary, a bird sanctuary, and you can, as I said, only get there by boat. And when you're there are no cars, no
Wow.
stores, no restaurants.
Uh-huh.
So people get along the area, small area on the dirt
Yeah.
roads on golf carts
Uh-huh.
and boats, of course. So I love it because everywhere you look, it's wild. The houses are obscured by
Hmm.
trees, and oh, look at the alligators over there. Oh, there's a bald eagle nest. And oh, the osprey is great. And it's so wonderful that I could
Right.
live there, except I have to travel so much, and my husband has lots of cars. So
Oh.
he's a car, not a good thing on Delise Island, but we visit.
That's
But it
nice.
was the obvious choice to
Uh-huh.
put kids in the summer. And I didn't want it to be camp. I wanted it to be a place that was home, because
Hmm.
when children read the book, I wanted them to know that nature is wild, even in their own backyard. You don't
Right.
have to go to camp. It
Yeah.
could be in your own backyard. So I set a little boy named Jake,
Uh-huh.
who was an army brat, traveled all over the place, and he was sent to visit his grandmother who lives there. And I
Right.
wanted him to be the primary character. He lived in New Jersey.
Hmm.
His father was injured in the war, and during the whole book, he's communicating with his dad. Then there's Macon, who is from a wealthy family in
Hmm.
Atlanta,
Right.
and he's very cool. He's kind of Google smart. They call him
Yeah.
human Google,
Uh-huh.
and his family only comes to visit.
Right.
And then there's Lovey, and Lovey's the little girl I wish I was when I was younger. I
Huh.
mean, she loves nature, but she can ride a boat by
I
herself.
know.
She knows the
Yep.
names of everything. She's just cool, and I like that she's kind of the Hermione Granger of the group.
That's
You know,
true. Yeah.
kind of the smarty pants and knows
Right.
everything. And but the three of them together would not maybe have formed a friendship if they lived
Hmm.
on the mainland.
Right.
But because there aren't any other kids,
Yeah. No
they
internet.
kind of hung out, which I like.
Right.
But it turns out they just happen to be best friends. You know how you
Hmm.
just meet someone and you know that you're special. So they get
Yeah.
in trouble, they learn a lot, and the grandmother gives him a job to do, which, amongst many chores, is to
Hmm.
write in a journal, which we can talk about. But I think
Yeah.
the kids really thought, oh, this is going to be the worst summer ever
I
when they
know.
arrived.
Yeah.
And then they find out, it's kind of fun
Not
out
that
here.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
cool. It's actually, I wanted kids to see that being outdoors is fun.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the best summer.
Hmm. Yeah, honest, I loved reading The Islanders. The characters are
Thank you.
just so fun, and just I feel like you can really relate to some of the characters as well, and just a great book to read overall. Yeah, I enjoyed it a
Thank
lot. It was
you.
a great read.
Well, we were so happy when it did well. We wrote,
Uh-huh.
it was a second. We always knew a second was coming, and that
Okay.
was Search for Treasure, because
Yeah.
we want, it's a real thing in South Carolina, all the Carolinas, all the coast,
Uh-huh.
about Blackbeard's treasure. We know it's there somewhere. Every kid is looking, an adult
Uh-huh.
is looking for Blackbeard's
Really?
treasure. And so I thought this would be a fun adventure for the
Yeah.
kids. And then, of course, the next one.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So how about I just wanted to ask some like more general questions other than the Islanders book. So like, how do you find the time to write all of your novels?
It's all I do.
Uh-huh.
It's all I do. You know, it makes a big difference. When I was a
Uh-huh.
young mother, it was much harder. I had three kids, and when they
Oh,
went to school, I got them off, closed the door, bye. And then I put a sign on the door. Is it blood or fire? If not, go away. And so at 3 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
I'd play fair. I'd turn off my computer, give them snacks, help them with homework, be a friend. If I was under deadline, I put that sign up, which
Oh,
meant if it's blood or fire, come get
yeah.
me. If you want to know where the cookies are, find out yourself.
Yeah.
But other than that, I worked from while they were in school.
Okay.
And as now I'm a grandmother, I'm older, and I get
Mhm.
my own time. So I'm a pretty tough boss. I force myself, I always say, butt in the chair. That is what's most important, because you
Uh-huh.
come up with a million excuses
Yeah,
why you don't have time to
I
write.
know. Yeah.
But if you have a story you're dying to tell,
Mhm.
butt in the chair. I don't care if it's 9 to 4 or 1 to 3.
Mhm.
Find a regular time that's your sacred time
Right.
in a sacred place.
Yeah.
Turn off the phone. And if it's an hour a day, it's you create your time,
Uh-huh.
because the book means enough to you to
Right.
tell the story. If
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that much, you will never write the book. You don't really know that you have it in you to write a book
Mhm.
until you get the beginning, middle, end done.
Yeah.
And after that, you are a writer. You are.
Mhm.
Whether you're published or not, you're a writer.
Definitely. Yeah. So like is there a certain time of day that you like write the best, or you have
Yes.
the most ideas?
Morning. I
Morning.
think from morning, my brain is refreshed.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I really believe in the power of dreams to inform my writing. It's
Uh-huh.
the subconscious getting into play.
Right.
So I dream of when I'm really in the book, like I am now,
Uh-huh.
I'll wake up eager to write the dream I had, because
Oh.
I tell my brain,
Yeah.
okay, here's a scene about fill in the blank. And I said, now think about it. And
Mhm.
over the years, I've trained my brain to start working on that scene. So
Wow.
it's a way of tapping into something. I don't know what it is, but it
Mhm.
works if you do it. So I write in the morning, take a break at lunch. I should walk more often. I'm under deadline now. So all that free time disappears and I get really into it. So I work
Yeah.
almost all the time. But I find now I like to quit by 4 or 5 o'clock. My brain
Okay.
says, I'm enough.
Right.
That's enough. I'm tired.
Yeah.
And give me some food and beverages.
Yeah. Need to relax a bit at the
Yeah,
end of
it's
the
even
day.
hard to read books when I'm writing books,
Mm.
other than nonfiction. I read all day when I'm working, the
Uh-huh.
nonfiction to support my novel.
Okay.
But when I read novels, I don't want anyone else's words in my head.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
Because plagiarism is a terrible thing.
Mhm.
People don't know where the ideas come from. And if you're reading someone's book that is like yours, you're going to plagiarize.
Yeah.
And that takes away from what I call voice.
Mm.
It's your book. Don't use anyone else's words.
Yeah. That's definitely true. So like is there a way that you come up with the ideas? Because like all of your books have like these different
Well,
plots.
I have yes, I actually have a really clear idea. I don't choose a
Mhm.
story. I always choose a species. Now, the
Oh.
Islanders is a little different because I had a
Uh-huh.
theme of the kids going outdoors. So
Yeah.
I didn't know for the Islanders, I only knew that I was putting these kids outside and they were going to explore. And I just put them in all kinds of situations that I
Mhm.
was in myself
Oh,
on the
okay.
island. So I let them respond.
Yeah.
And the characters do come alive as you write. But for the last 20 years, when I wrote about species,
Mhm.
I would say, okay, I'm writing about the dolphins,
Mhm.
Atlantic bottlenose dolphins. And I didn't want to write about Flipper. God knows that story's done more damage than help over the years.
Yeah.
So I would do an academic research first.
Mhm.
I love to read about all these animals. I love
Yeah.
it. And then I went out and I talked to experts in the
Mhm.
field. The third thing I did was the best, the reason why I love what I do.
Mhm.
I'd go out and volunteer. So I would
Oh.
go to the Dolphin Research Center, and
Yeah.
every year for a couple months, every year I'd go and work with the dolphins.
Wow.
I went out with Noah out on the boats to
Uh-huh.
tag dolphins and to process dolphins and
Wow.
identify. And that's the only way you get a story.
Right.
What is it? I always say, what is it that the animal's teaching me
Mm.
that I can tell in the story that would be fascinating and also have life lessons.
Yeah.
So the animals tell me what the story is really about.
Right. That's
It worked
amazing.
for 20 years.
That's amazing. Yeah. You definitely need that sort of like inspiration as well when writing a book. I feel like, it's also easy to write about your own like life stories, what has happened in your life, but then also like what you're doing, you're writing about different species. So it's amazing that
Mm.
you're actually spending time with them and trying to learn more about it.
And it's more true.
Right.
I know
Yeah.
what it smells like. If when I describe looking at a dolphin in the eye
Uh-huh.
and how I feel and the communication, it's because I've done it. And I
Right.
know that I sense
Yeah.
that's communication. We don't
Yeah.
need words. Humans always want to reach out and touch someone like that, right?
Yeah.
Don't. They don't do that in nature.
Yeah.
Just, learn to be quiet and to trust your instincts.
Hmm.
And it's not woo woo. It's people roll their eyes and think you're woo woo if you talk about the connection. How many people have a dog and they look at their dog's eyes and they know what the dog wants? They
Yeah.
know what the dog's trying to say because you have that bond, right?
Right.
It's the same in the wild. If you
Uh-huh.
just learn about the species and trust your instincts, you do communicate, but it's not through touching or words. It's
Right.
there's something else that you learn to trust
Right.
called instinct and intuition, and it's powerful.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. So, what would you say is the most difficult part about writing a book?
There's a lot.
Oh,
The first is facing the blank page.
okay.
And I think anyone who writes any kind of homework report or report for anything,
Yeah.
when you see that page, it's
Oh my gosh.
what am I going to fill it up
I
with?
know.
And so though I've written all those books, every day when I face a blank page for a new chapter,
Hmm.
what is it I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So there's that fear, number one. The other one is discipline.
Hmm.
We talked about that, how you just put butt in the chair, and to make sure that you put your time in. Because even if we know what we're writing is not good,
Hmm.
it's like chiseling and the sentences are stiff. You can't fix what's not on the page. So
Yeah.
just get there and put some words on the page. Um, the third, I think, is finishing.
Hmm.
A lot of young authors fail because they want to make sure those first pages are beautiful.
Right.
You don't even know if you're going to keep those pages
Yeah.
by the time you finish the novel.
Hmm.
Get the pages done. Go beginning, middle, end.
Right.
Then you begin the process of revision.
Hmm.
And the last thing is be kind to yourself because you're just human. You'd have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Kind of pat yourself on the back and say you can do it because
Hmm.
it's hard and it's lonely,
Yeah.
but it's also fun.
Definitely. I can relate to the first thing you said about facing that empty page. We have to write so many essays in school and it's like how do I
Yes.
start this and how do I end it, you know? So, yeah,
But
that's
what you just said is so important,
uh-huh.
especially for essays, starting and ending.
Hmm.
First, when you know what you want to say and you have all your facts,
Yeah.
figure out again how to come full circle
Yeah.
because your ending should always tie in with your beginning.
Exactly.
And it's the same with novel writing.
Yeah.
Always bring it full circle because
Hmm.
readers like to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, that
Right.
you're taking them on a journey,
Exactly. Yeah. Just like
even in an essay.
just like the perfect closure to the book is amazing, honestly, when you're reading. And then it just like has that closure to the whole book that summarizes like the main points kind of, and
And
like
you're not always going to get that great sentence in your
right.
first draft.
Yeah.
That sentence, sometimes I'm writing
Uh-huh.
and it's called being in the zone. And it's just hour, you don't even know. You're just like, I think I plug in and take dictation. I do. And it's so much fun. And then
Uh-huh.
you read it afterwards and you're like, pretty good.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? I don't even remember. And then there are sentences where you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
That
What
needs
happened?
work. That's when you take out your tool belt and you
Uh-huh.
make it better, you
Right.
know? So it's a little of both, and you just have to
Mhm.
trust the process.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like trial and error, I guess, writing.
I talk to my grandchildren, and it's really cute. I have two that think they're helping me write the book. Well, they
Oh.
are. And they're my first editors. I always say, read the book. Here's
Uh-huh.
a draft. Here's $10 because they want to be paid.
Wow.
It's terrible. I have to pay them to read the book. So, and if they say this part's kind of slow, or the word they might use is boring, I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh, that's a word I never want to associate with.
Yeah.
So I listen to the kids, and I take their pages and I rework them
Mhm.
so that they find it interesting. So it's always good to have somebody you trust who's not your mom, who's going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
to say this needs a little work, or
Mhm.
this is slow or something, because
Mhm.
a good reader is someone who will tell you not just what's good about the book, but what needs help.
Right. That's true. So how about we get into more specifically with the Islander series? I'm super excited to start talking about the series because
Okay.
I absolutely love the books. So,
Thank you.
could you tell us what the first book in the Islander series is about?
I will. Here it is. I love the covers. Let me just. Jen Brickling is the artist. Whoa, there it
Wow.
is.
I know.
And what I love about it is the colors so bright, but she nailed it. There's Lovey, Macon, and Jake sitting there,
Hmm.
and she made the turtles cute without being cutesy. You know
I
what I
know.
mean? That's
Yeah.
hard to do. So the Islanders is the story where you meet Jake and his friends Lovey and Macon, and they have to write a journal, and they get in some adventures, and they get into trouble,
Hmm.
and their community service is turtle duty.
Yeah.
So the readers will learn a lot about my beloved loggerhead sea turtles, and that's book one. And then at the end of summer, like I said, they hate to leave. They thought that the summer would go slow, and they hate to
Yeah.
leave. At the end, and the whole subplot with the father and the grandmother, there's some serious issues,
Hmm.
depression. He loses his leg, and there's a lot that we don't mess around with kids. We tell them the stories as they are real and true. But I think it's just being, like we talked about earlier, dialogue
Hmm.
and the kind of vocabulary that we use that makes it more kid friendly.
Right.
Then Search for Treasure, as I said, is the story where they return the next summer.
Hmm.
And the first thing they see is a sign on the bulletin board about a man who they call Scary Harry. He finds a gold doubloon.
Uh-huh.
And every kid is looking for this Blackbeard's treasure.
Hmm.
And they get the metal detectors, and
Yeah.
the whole is story about not just they're searching for treasure,
Hmm.
but the animal in this book is Big Al, and kids love Big Al. He's
Yeah.
the biggest, baddest alligator, and he's real.
Uh-huh.
He's almost 15, 16 feet long.
Wow. Yeah.
And this Big Al, every alligator is in awe of Big Al. He sits on this float on Delise Island in the pond,
Uh-huh.
and we have videos where when he comes up, all
Uh-huh.
the other alligators leave.
Oh my
It's like he's
God.
thrown. So
Wow.
Big Al, there's a couple of kids who are, everywhere. There's always one or two kids who get in trouble.
Hmm.
But these kids come to the island, and they're called the outsiders, and Big Al
Hmm.
teaches them a lesson. And then the third book coming out, we're very excited about. It comes
Yeah.
out next June, this coming June 24, and it's called Shipwrecked.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's a book of survival, as is obvious from the title.
Uh-huh.
But in this book, everyone knows who's read one and two that Nate loves boats.
Uh-huh.
He's kind of jealous or a little jelly of Lovey, who has a boat, and it's
Uh-huh.
his dream for
Right.
three books. He gets his boat, and I think the title tells you what's going to happen.
Mm.
And they have to survive. And it's very cool to see these kids take what they've learned
Hmm.
and how they manage to live for
Right.
a long while. So that's called Shipwrecked, and it's coming in June.
Awesome. I'm super excited for that. It
Thank
sounds
you.
very interesting.
Well,
And
kids like survival, and I
yeah.
want kids to know. You never
Right.
know when you get stuck. And there are
Yeah.
so many survival stories with
Uh-huh.
kids having, look what just happened in the Amazon, this plane
Yeah.
crashed and kids survived.
I
To have
know.
basic survival skills is a very helpful thing.
Definitely. Yeah. So, you worked with Miss Angela May on
I
the other
did.
series. So, how was your experience collaborating with her on these books?
It's my only experience. I
Okay.
work with Angela. Well, we've worked together for over 10 years. But
Wow.
when I was asked to write the middle grade series, I always knew she was a great writer. And I said,
Hmm.
Angela, are you interested in writing this series with me? And she started to cry because she never told me it was her
Oh,
dream to write for kids.
oh, that's so
So
sweet.
how perfect. So
Yeah,
we we work really well together, and it's been a wonderful experience. I
that's
don't
nice.
know if I'll collaborate much in the future,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I will one or two more times with another writer, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's interesting for me, who's written so many books, to
Right.
get input from other authors in the
Yeah.
process.
Different
And
ideas.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So how did you come up with like the main idea of the story of the Islanders?
It all well, it's a couple of ideas. Both Angela and I love Delise Island, and we knew we wanted to set a book there. But
Uh-huh.
before that, I had my family had a farm in Vermont,
Oh,
and it
okay.
was huge, a sheep farm. And I used to go up every summer with my little children by
Uh-huh.
myself in this big old mountain house.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned with my kids. I was not that knowledgeable about the names of the birds, the names of the trees, the names of the
Right.
plants. Did you know nettle? If you pick nettle, it'll rub it on your, if you're hiking and you rub it on your poison ivy, it'll
Uh-huh.
help.
Right.
All those little tricks that I
Yeah.
didn't know. I, as the mother, learned with my kids up in the mountains.
Mm.
And we had a big sheet on the wall where we wrote down the names of all the birds and the plants and the
Uh-huh.
animals that we spotted, and we'd identify them at night. And this was pre computers. We had to do everything by books.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
old school. And I realized what fun we had getting out in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
because we lived in Washington, D.C., where there wasn't much wild at the time.
Yeah.
And we all learned together. So if you ask my kids who are parents today, what are the best memories of your childhood?
Mm-hmm.
201, they'll say those summers in Vermont when
Oh.
we were in the wild. So I knew I wanted to give kids everywhere the
Mm-hmm.
same experience of being in a place that didn't have Wi-Fi, phones. You're
Yeah.
stuck. Like when your mom said, go outside and play. Oh my God,
Yeah.
so boring. There's nothing to do. We've done everything 100 times. To have that sense of adventure that
Yeah.
is inside us all if it's
Mm-hmm.
awakened. And that's something that we both wanted to show kids.
That's awesome. That's very sweet that you shared those amazing adventures with your own kids. And
Yeah,
I guess
I hope kids seem to like it. But it's
yeah,
interesting. I think the parents are liking it too. A lot of
really.
my old adult fans are enjoying the idea
Oh,
of, hey, I'm going to get a journal and start
uh-huh.
taking notes of all the birds that I can identify,
Right. Mm-hmm.
or all the animals that,
Animals.
insects. Don't be afraid of insects. If
Yeah.
you know what's dangerous, you won't worry.
Yeah, definitely. So the setting of the Islanders is in Delise Island. So would
Yes.
you? So have you lived in Delise Creek before, or would you ever want to live in a place like that?
I go, and I've stayed there many times. And there's a woman called Judy Fairchild, and
Hmm.
I tell everyone this. She has an Instagram account for like a 3 minute, or even maybe, I'm sorry, 1 minute
Hmm.
video
Okay.
called Nature Walks with Judy, Judy. And I
Oh.
encourage everybody to look, because she will pinpoint the smallest thing in nature or
Uh-huh.
the biggest alligator on the Deweese. But she's been our guide for years and a good
Mm.
friend. So I do know Deweese pretty well. But she
Okay.
looks at everything when I finish to make suggestions.
Uh-huh.
I always like the experts to chime in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly would love to actually visit a place like Dewey's Island. Like at first, I'm like, oh wow, no internet, no cars. So like, how does this work? But then as you start reading, it's like, oh, like this place actually sounds really nice. I mean, I myself, I love the beach, so I feel like
Yeah.
staying on a place like Dewey's Island, you could just spend your time on the beach like the whole day, learn about the different creatures, and riding golf carts around the island sounds so fun.
Well, I know, and they can do it at 12 on Dewey's. The
Yeah.
difference,
Yeah.
I think, was on Dewey's because it's so isolated. When
Uh-huh.
you're on the beach, you're alone. Even I live
Yeah.
on Isle of Palms, and on the weekends, it's packed.
Oh, wow.
People everywhere. That's hardly a wild experience.
Yeah.
It's I really like being secluded and
Mhm.
alone.
Right. Yeah. So, is there any character in the Islander series which you can relate to the most? I know you mentioned about how, like Lovey, you said that you would want to be someone like her,
Yeah.
but how about someone you can relate to?
That's a good question. I think obviously because of my age,
Uh-huh.
I identified with Honey. Not that I'm like Honey,
Mm-hmm.
but she is. Uh, what I liked about that character was, first of all, she was depressed at the beginning. You don't tell
Right.
kids this woman is depressed.
Yeah.
You show that she's not getting up. She's
Mm-hmm.
her house is not clean.
Yeah.
She doesn't like to cook. You show what depression looks like
Mm-hmm.
to kids, and
Yeah.
he's like kind of annoyed with her, his
Mm-hmm.
grandmother. Come on, I'm hungry,
Yeah.
and but I actually have someone in my family who you open up the fridge and you don't know what's in there. Mystery meat. You open up what is that?
Yeah.
Awful. So I thought I had to put that in because it really is funny. But so
Uh-huh.
that was who I identified in a way because it happened to me.
Uh-huh.
Of all the characters, though, again, Lovey, who she just had such heart and she loved adventure and she really was sensitive to the what was bothering the boys.
Yeah.
And I think she's the glue that held them together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lovey's I think probably my favorite character. I mean, she's just
Mm,
so friendly as well.
yeah,
With the Macon and Jake, and then she just knows so much about the island and teaches the other
right.
her friends as well about the different creatures as well.
And as she grows,
Uh-huh.
it's interesting, in the three books, they're getting older. And
Right.
I'm right at the precipice now between middle grade and young adult.
Right.
And their bodies are changing, their relationships are changing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm being very sensitive to how Jake and Lovey feel about each other in a
Uh-huh.
very innocent, sweet way. But
Yeah.
it's real.
Right.
They're best friends and maybe a little something more.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting when I'm in the schools and I talk to the kids, and I always ask, okay, who's your favorite character?
Uh-huh.
All the boys are either Jake or Macon, but
Uh-huh.
all the girls
Yeah.
are Team Lovey.
Lovey.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. So, do you base the adventure in your novels all like on your childhood, or are there like some other things you add in that you would have liked to do?
Like I said, a lot of the woodland adventures are things
Mm-hmm.
that I'm familiar with
Right.
from Vermont. From all the years we stayed in the mountains, and we
Mm-hmm.
were on 1,000 acres in the middle of nowhere. So I know what it's like to be away in the
Yeah.
mountains. Most of the marine area, though, is again from my experiences as a turtle lady, turtle
Mm-hmm.
team member on the beach. I wanted to share that a great deal. And the other is just things that Angela and I have done while we were on the beach. Or I love it when Judy tells me the stories of her kids, or a
Oh,
couple of the other ladies on the
yeah.
island. Alicia has two boys who are the. In fact, Alicia's a friend of ours who lives on
Uh-huh.
Dewey's, and her boys are exactly the same age as Jake and Megan.
Wow.
And they think that I'm writing a book about them.
How about that?
And I love it because
Yeah.
actually I am. I'm using their
Yeah.
stories. So,
Uh-huh.
I always say a good writer is a better listener. You know
Mm-hmm.
the good story when you hear it.
That's very true. So do you have like a message for any of the young readers out there, or any or the people who are aspiring to be a writer?
Okay, those are two different messages. For those who want to be a writer, I'll say go ahead and write, especially when you're young. I wrote my first book when I was 8 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't
Wow.
fancy. It was on paper that I stapled together, and I think I
Uh-huh.
even illustrated it. But it
Uh-huh.
was called Willie the Wishful Whale. I wish I'd kept it,
Oh.
but I remember the story. Maybe I'll write it for kids one day, but
Yeah.
just write your story and have fun. The first draft, go for it. Don't worry about spelling and grammar. You can do that next draft.
Mm-hmm.
Just get your story down. So have fun.
Yeah.
For messages, it's get outside. Don't be afraid. The more you know the names
Mm-hmm.
of the plants and the birds and the animals and the insects, you aren't afraid and you realize that the wild becomes your backyard.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Thank you so much. So, is there anything else you would like to say to the viewers, just to add on it?
Come check me out. I'm at Instagram or TikTok, Mary Alice Monroe. Come
Mhm.
say hi, check out my videos. I will write back if you write to me. And so will Angela. We
Yeah,
love to hear from our readers.
that's amazing. So
Tell us
maybe
what
we
birds
should.
you found this year. What animal scared you or you
Yeah,
surprised you this year?
yeah. Just little stories maybe about
Yeah.
your summer. So, I think that's all the questions I had. We can
Thank
move on
you.
to the comment section and see if anyone else has any questions. Okay, so it looks like we have a question here from Sarah Parker. What
Hi,
was your
Sarah.
feeling holding your first book in your hand?
Oh, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question before.
Really?
Good question. Um, you know, I love libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get your book in the box, it comes in the mail,
Right.
and it's like nothing else. You just like I did it.
Yeah.
It's real. My dream came true. But
Mm-hmm.
when I saw the book in the library, that's when I knew I was a real author. Because
Yeah.
I've always used to prowl the libraries for books, and when I saw mine up there,
Mm-hmm.
that was very cool. Seeing your book become a movie is also. I was on the beach, and they were making the beach house into a movie.
Oh.
And when I saw the first scene I saw was
Uh-huh.
all the team, their actors are in costume for Turtle Team,
Yeah.
and they were looking at a turtles emerge from the nest.
Uh-huh.
I started to cry. It was like
Oh.
so real. My words were coming alive. It was
Yeah.
very.
That's so sweet. Okay, next question. How did you find the journey from writing your first book to getting it published?
Well, the name of my first book is called The Long Road Home, and my children call it The Long Road to Publication. Well, it
Oh
took
my
a long
God.
time.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I want to share.
Mm,
I always knew I was a writer. I always knew, not just knew, I saw it in my brain that I would be published.
yeah.
And I worked for that goal, knowing it was going to happen. I just
Right.
had faith. I was smart. I determined. I mean, back in the day, we didn't have the internet. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of tools for young authors today to
Right.
get read, to tell people about their work.
Yeah.
But it's all about confidence in your own voice, that
Mm-hmm.
you have a story to tell that no one else can tell, and
Right.
just see it. It might, and get used to rejection.
Yeah.
Everyone faces it. It
Mm-hmm.
only takes one agent and one editor to say
Right.
yes.
Yep. Definitely. That's a great question, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely is. All right. So let's see. Next question. Can you give us a sneak peek of your upcoming book?
Ah, that's Shipwrecked, and we talked a little bit about it. I really think this is the the cream of the crop, as it were, the best
Uh-huh.
of them all, because this is when the kids, all three, who are best friends, but when you're locked together in a life and death situation,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. The best and the worst of you come out. Not only do you have to find something to eat and drink, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to negotiate your relationship with all your so-called best friends.
Right.
So there's conflict as
Mm-hmm.
well as understanding. And I call it Lord of the Flies without the violence.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you're dealing with every instinct you have for
Yeah.
survival, and your true colors come out. So it was a hard book to write, but I think it'll be the most exciting book to
Mm-hmm.
write, to read.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that book.
Me too.
Yeah. It'll be really. I'm sure it'll be a very interesting book to read as well.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. So let's see if you have any more questions in the comments section. Um. Oh, thank you so much, John Miller.
Thank you.
I am so honored, honestly, to have you, Mrs. Monroe, on this episode today. It's been such a long time since I've, gone live, so it's great to start again.
You're a
And
natural.
oh,
You're
thank
very
you,
easy to talk to. It's a joy to talk to you.
thank you so much. I hope we can do this again sometime.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, after Shipwreck comes out, give me a call and we'll talk about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, awesome. I look
Okay.
forward to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Take
Awesome. So
care.
I think that's all for today. Thank you again so much for joining the
Thank you. Love
episode.
to all. Happy
Mhm.
reading.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great summer, and I hope to see you again on the Books and Beyond series on NPStation. But that's all for today, guys. Keep reading, keep coding, and stay safe. Bye.